Yo, hello, good morning, everyone. I'm a little bit late, but you'll have to forgive me. I woke up way too late. you guys can blame Josh. Blame Josh for everything. But today, casual logger strikes again. Um, ad? There's an ad running? I don't know if there should be an ad running right now. But hello Magnic, hello A-Right, hello anyone who may be lurking or just like warming up for the day, hello, apparently Twitch didn't accept your resub, oh no, so you gotta do it again, didn't waste any money, but still super fucked, that is fucked up, Magnic, and I appreciate it. Just ended, yay! Good morning, Haley, as well, welcome in. So, A-Right, did they give you a pre-roll ad? Because they should not be doing that on Twitch. I have it set so pre-rolls should not be enabled at all. Because if they're doing that, then that's also very fucked up. Because I specifically, it forces us to do like 3 minutes of ads every hour to avoid pre-rolls, but really? Gave you a pre-roll ad. That's so fucked up. I'm gonna have to look into my settings and make sure everything's disabled. Sorry about that. But yeah, today we're gonna be doing some studying up on our Hollow Knight lore. It was only 50 or so seconds. That's still 50 seconds that should not have been there. Maybe you're wrong. Nah, if it put you in an ad, then it put you in an ad. That's just... Twitch. That's great. But yeah, no, I am going to swap us right on over to the... Oh my gosh, to the video here. So I have a command set up, so if you guys would like the source of the video, hopefully that should post a link in chat. I tested it like right before I went live, so if it stopped working like within the past minute or so, that would be awful. But yay! I'm really excited to learn some Hollow Knight stuff here. This video has been recommended to me a lot, so I'm really excited. Also, I didn't know whether to put the stream in like the Hollow Knight category or like just chatting. I stuck it in Hollow Knight because it feels relevant, but I'm not playing the game. I don't really know. I don't know if it matters that much, but it's in the Hollow Knight category right now. I don't know if I'll swap it at all. Anyways, let me rearrange some stuff around here so I can read chat and watch this at the same time. Alrighty. Let me turn off the music. It's gonna be awkward silence for a second here. Huh? Okay. Yay, I'm really excited. Okay, I hope you guys are as well. I hope you guys are having a great morning. I guess I didn't really ask how your guys' days is going yet. I hope you guys are having a great day. I kind of just woke up, so I haven't really had much of a day yet. I woke up, and then I walked up a giant hill, and then I drove home, and then now I'm here. Yay! Anyways, I want to get us started here. I'm really excited. We're gonna learn about our little knight here. This video contains a few spoilers. Bear that in mind before embarking on this journey, or don't.
If you were to ask me, what is your favorite video game ever made? I would have to say Cory in the House for the Nintendo DS.
DS
but
games
Hollow Knight
do
would
roll.
be a close second. Hollow Knight was released on February 24th, 2017 by Team Cherry, an indie game studio based in the mythical land of Adelaide, South Australia. Over the past 3 years, Hollow Knight has become an indie darling. The game has sold over 3.5 million copies.
3.5 million, that's crazy.
It was the opening game at ADGQ 2019. There's a Hollow Knight book.
There's
a
a
line
book?
of plushies, t-shirts,
I want to look into
patches,
the book. I love
nuclear
books.
warheads, and even vinyl records for all you goddamn hipsters. Team Cherry had one goal when making Hollow Knight: they wanted to create a world that allowed players to get completely lost in exploration. We can see this desire in Hollow Knight's design. The levels in Hollow Knight are massive, with secrets and rewards hidden in every nook and cranny. Be that powerful charms,
such a great game they've made. Like every single bit of it. I want to put captions on.
The requires the player to work for their map, forcing them to make a stronger mental image of the world in their head.
I will be yapping over the top of
Christopher Larkin's
this.
Score and Ari Gibson's artwork lend to this as well.
Also, how is the audio going? I didn't really test that at all.
But there's one
hope
aspect
that's all
of
good
Hollow
for you
Knight that
guys.
keeps people like me coming back. The world building.
The world building. Time to learn.
When Super Metroid launched in
I obviously played Hollow Knight, but it's a little low. Gotcha. Let me fix that real quick. Just a little bit then. Yeah, I obviously played Hollow Knight, but it's like I haven't how do I say? I never really got really into the details of the world building. I only really know what I've learned from you guys telling me stuff in chat. Because, like, I'd read stuff and then I'd be so focused on other things in the game. I'd be like, ooh, boss time. Not learn the lore behind the boss time. But, Shamil, hello. Welcome to the stream. This video is peak. You watched it the night before Silksong. Ooh, I wanted to watch it before Silksong, but I was so focused on the last few streams we had right before Silksong. We're trying to hit 112, which we almost did. We got to 111, but P4 was kind of kicking our ass there for a second there, and then Silksong came out, so we had to start playing it. But now we're at the video. I gotta learn my Hollow Knight lore.
1994, it stood out for its amazing sense of immersion.
But I'm glad to know it's
now
peak.
in 1994,
I'm
I was busy not being alive, but I've watched enough YouTube video essays to know that this game was a big deal. In case you didn't know, Super Metroid is basically the granddaddy of all Metroidvanias.
So good to know.
That's why they're called Metroidvanias.
Ah, I see.
Now in Super Metroid, there are moments that give the player a sense of depth. Basically the feeling that this world exists outside of Samus's interactions with it. In the room right before that diabetic crocodile thing, Samus can find the corpse of a random soldier. His inclusion here doesn't change the gameplay at all, but instead gives the player a sense of wonder about the world they are exploring.
One of the things that sold me on playing Hollow Knight was just the fact that there's a set map.
Did he like
that was
jazz?
So expansive.
Now, finding dead bodies and other random garbage is pretty cool, right?
I used to think that it was
basically
like
does
randomly
the same
generated,
thing
but
about a dozen
obviously
times.
it's not.
Through its world building, Hollow Knight turns Hallownest into a living kingdom. You can sense the ancient history of the land when you look at dilapidated structures or giant barred doors. Nothing feels like it was put into the game randomly. There's a reason for it all. Except those reasons aren't the easiest to uncover. Hollow Knight's narrative is buried under layers of NPC dialogue, item descriptions, lore tablets, and even additional content like the Quarrel comic and Fangamer's Wanderer's
comic?
Journal. These past 3 years have seen an insane amount of research by the Hollow Knight community to make sense of Team Cherry's sprawling world. We've even made it to the point where people are looking at the in-game signs to try and decipher Hallownest's logographic language. In this video, I hope to give you a long and detailed look into the world of Hollow Knight, exploring Hallownest's history and uncertain future. When I'm not busy making surprisingly accurate Super Smash Bros. Roster speculation videos, or insightful podcasts about beloved subjects like the Donkey Kong Country television series, or whatever this was supposed to be, I'm usually making videos about Hollow Knight. And while I am a seasoned Hollow Knight lore expert, I cannot confirm that every musing or theory presented in this video is completely correct. I highly recommend checking out the lore section of the Hollow Knight wiki if you want a more neutral explanation of Hollow Knight's lore. But if you're too lazy to read, then I suggest you sit back, order some Domino's pizza, or just grab a block of cheese from the fridge, and enjoy the mostly complete lore of Hollow Knight. It's a simple fact of life that every human worships a god. Be that technology, ideologies, or in rare cases, God. As it turns out, the bugs in Hallownest pretty much operate in the same way. From the Mosskin born from the dream of a giant slug, to the emo kids of the ancient civilization who literally worship the darkness, there is no shortage of things to worship in the world of Hollow Knight. Our story begins with a creature very much worthy of worship, A creature born from the carcass of a worm.
Pale King?
The carcass can still be found in the Kingdom's Edge, and it's our only good look at what worms actually look like.
Then.
At the time Hollow Knight occurs, it is suggested there are no worms left in the world.
Worms into blast
they were incredibly long creatures that featured little to no limbs. Another more mysterious property of worms was that they had some kind of prescience or foresight. Basically, they could see the future to some capacity. It isn't clear how effective this ability was. Considering how the entire race went extinct, this foresight ability must have been pretty shit. Getting back to this particular worm carcass, it is explained that this worm traveled across the distant mountains and wastelands beyond Hallownest. Once it arrived in Hallownest, the worm died.
Oh.
Except not really. Inside the maw of the carcass sits a pale broken egg, out of which hatched a new form of worm, a being of meager shell. This form of the worm is usually referred to as the Pale King.
I've heard.
And he's the
character
basically responsible for everything that happens in Hollow Knight.
I've heard he's shit.
The Pale King is a higher being, a type of creature that exists above all others. I don't know if it's true or not. I guess we'll find out. His body was said to shine with a radiant visage that harmed those who looked upon him. The ultimate goal of the Pale King seemed to be in line with that of other worms. A line from the cryptic Mr. Mushroom reads,
Mr. Mushroom.
"Worms pull bugs into their thrall, till ages pass and kingdoms fall." In other words, it's just in their nature. Dogs wag their tails, cats bury their shit, and worms bring massive amounts of bugs into their service in order to form long-standing kingdoms and civilizations. And here in a far corner of the world, the Pale King emerged from the corpse of his former self
story of Hollow Knight.
and began to build his eternal kingdom, Hallownest.
It is a peak game.
There's just one slight problem. There's people already living there. The area that would eventually become Hallownest was already filled with mantises,
this is a cool map. I'm gonna pause
bees.
here. Look at this. It's like fully illustrated. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this. Whoever made this. I like that. I like that a lot.
Moths, spiders, mushrooms, and bush
cosplayers.
How
crazy is it that it took me
an
entire 2 streams to realize that everything were bugs? I literally knew nothing about the game going in.
One of the more receptive groups to the arrival of the Pale King were the mushrooms of the fungal wastes.
I was just
These creatures were able to communicate with one another through one shared mind. The mushrooms viewed this shared mind as a strength, and they were kind of smug dickheads about
the map
it.
Doesn't make any sense.
Ultimately, the mushrooms wearily accepted the Pale King's rule, viewing his foresight as a shield to the dangers of the future.
I always wonder
Another
about
group living in the fungal wastes is the Mantis tribe. The Mantises have a rich cultural history reaching back to long before the birth of Hallownest.
Oh wait, we're learning about
the Mantises. Are a proud.
I'm gonna pause for a second. The one thing that I never really understood. There's that section. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name all of a sudden. I definitely know what it is. It's the one with the jellyfish. I was like, how do they just exist? I'm guessing it's all supposed to be waterlogged or something. That whole area, but how does the jellyfish? I don't know. That was one thing that kind of confused me. But Fall Canyon, that's it. I don't know why I forgot it for a second. It's how if it's full of water. Because that's how the jellyfish would exist. Then it's how would it not drain or I don't know. But apparently some entrances and stuff don't line up or something like that. You don't know. You don't play the game. Interesting. I didn't know. Huh. Maybe I'll look into that video off stream because that's actually something I'm really curious about. I really love the map. So, oh my gosh. Lister, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. My alert glitched out there for a second. I don't think I heard that very well, but yeah, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the stream. Yeah, we continue. We learn about the mantises because this is actually what I was most interested to learn about. I loved the mantis village and everything about the mantises and their lords,
the importance of proving one's physical strength. The mantises are fiercely territorial, but will show respect to those who display great power.
I'm interested.
These Fight Club enthusiasts were led by 4 powerful mantis lords, who I guess just kind of sat around waiting for outsiders to challenge them. The Mantis tribe had no interest in the Pale King's kingdom, but the two communities did come to a truce. In exchange for their independence from Hallownest, the Mantis tribe kept the beasts of Deep Nest from invading Hallownest.
Oh, really? I didn't
Not
know
sure
that.
why they didn't just go out the other exits from Deep Nest, but whatever. I'm not an expert on Border Patrol. I don't work at ICE anymore. Let's move on to Deep Nest. Now, many of the different tribes of Hallownest were kind enough to leave lore tablets behind, detailing pretty much everything we need to know about them.
Throne, yeah.
Unfortunately, the bugs of Deep Nest didn't do that.
The first time I went through
we know that the spiders of Deep Nest had a monarchy because why not? Those are always good, right? Also, within Deep Nest are a separate group of spiders that immigrated to Deep Nest at some point in the past. This group was known as the Weavers, and they established their own culture and history within Deep Nest. They used looms of silk to weave stories, spells, and shields. One thing we know for sure about Deep Nest is that they really didn't want anything to do with Hallownest. The struggles of Deep Nest-Hallownest relations would become painfully clear as time goes on, but for right now, it seems like the two remain fairly isolated from one another.
Sorry, that's the sequel.
Another section of pre-Hallownest includes Green Path. Now, as far as we can tell, the mushrooms, mantises, and spiders of Deep Nest didn't worship any higher beings. There is this giant mushroom corpse in the fungal core, but I don't think this is a higher being. I mean, who the hell would want to worship a fat-ass mushroom? Fat-ass slugs? Now that's dope.
That is dope.
The land we know as Green Path was created by the higher being known as Un. Un used her great mind to dream the vegetation of Green Path into the once barren caverns.
I'll use that.
Un's followers, the Mosskin, were also born out of Un's dream, making her their creator. Green Path at its height was actually much larger than we see in-game. At one point, Green Path stretched into both modern-day Queen's Garden and possibly Fog Canyon. Green Path's citizens showed themselves to be a fairly developed society.
So
they built a temple at the Lake of Un in order to worship her, and they even had their own line of defense, with Moss Knights showing proficiency in combat, using nails and shells as weapons. The Law of Un continued to remain in effect even after the Pale King arrived. But it seems like they allowed the king to establish a road through their lands, leading travelers to the heart of Hallownest. Hence the name Green Path. Yeah, Team Cherry really racked their brains when naming this area, didn't they? Next, we have the bees. And while there is no lore on how these bees can turn into fucking drills, or how they can ignore all known laws of aviation, we do know how they reacted to the Pale King. These bugs decided to seal their hive off from the rest of the world, with only patrol bees being able to enter and exit the hive. So yeah, the bees are pretty much pointless in this story. And finally we have the Moth tribe. In-game,
you did not
the only
mention
moth
Grim
settlement
yet.
is in the
I'm
resting
excited
grounds.
to learn about Grim.
But the tribe might have also inhabited the Crystal Peak at one point.
Really?
Now, as we all know, moths in real life are just complete assholes. As for the moths in Hollow Knight, well, it's a bit complicated. The moth race is described as being a rather pacifist group, with few ever choosing to take up a weapon.
We only really see
During the Pale King's reign, the moth race delved amongst dreams and the dead, displaying the importance of remembering those who have passed, as well as learning how to shape dreams themselves. Similar to the Mosskin, the Moth tribe was born from a higher being known as the Radiance.
The Radiance,
The Radiance is described as being a light in which the Moth tribe basked.
That's fun.
So she was basically a giant lamp to them. Another important aspect about the Radiance is her ties to dreams and a substance known as essence.
The sun, yes,
essence
it
are
is
the remains
sun.
of wishes and dreams, and are represented in-game by these dream catcher particle
Actually,
effects.
I saw that clip after
essence can take the form of whispering
finished
roots,
Hollow Knight.
as well as dream ghosts,
are we gonna fight
both
the
of
sun?
which are memories taking root in the world.
That's so funny.
The Radiance appears to be a creature made of essence, but she isn't the only higher being to give off essence. Un has green particles, the Pale King has gray particles, and this sexy character named Grim gives off fiery red particles. However, the Radiance appears to be the main god when it comes to dreams, even if other gods also dabble in the dream realm.
What is
Getting
this?
back to the Moth tribe,
what is
it is
going
their
on?
interaction with the Pale King that we need to discuss. Basically, the Moths turned their backs on the Radiance completely, in order to worship the new light that had appeared.
Oh, really?
The Pale King's light. So yeah, Moths are assholes in this game too. With her tribe forsaking her, the Radiance became a forgotten memory,
really cool
a remnant of the past, and a thing that's definitely not going to come up again later in this video. And so the Pale King's new kingdom was established,
it's that cool map again.
Hallownest. But there is one aspect of Hallownest that we need to discuss.
Genuinely so
Unfortunately, to better understand this, we're going to have to read some poetry. In Wilds Beyond, they speak your name with reverence and regret.
This is the very
For
first
none
thing
could tame
that
our
pops
savage souls, yet you the challenge met. Under palest watch, you taught, we changed. Base instincts were redeemed. a world you gave to Bug and Beast as they had never dreamed. This is from a poem titled Elegy for Hallownest, written by Modamon the Teacher.
Interesting how they make that
the poem appears at the beginning of every playthrough, and hints at what the Pale King and his kingdom offered.
In the game.
Much of the land outside of Hallownest appears to be a wasteland, where bugs survive off of instinct, without the burden of mind. Hallownest somehow taught these bugs and tamed their savagery. Basically, the Pale King changed the instincts of his subjects and granted them higher thought. To get a better picture of this, let's look at two different characters, Boone and Tuck. These adorable panda bug things give us a clear display of Hallownest's effect. While both appear to be the same species of bug, Boone is dumb as a sack of rocks, struggling to string together words, while Tuck speaks fairly clearly. The main difference between these two characters is that while Boone lives outside of Hallownest, Tuck lives beneath the city's capital. Basically, it appears as though Hallownest is a literal holy ground that raises the intelligence of those who dwell within.
That's
the Pale King established a path, starting from the kingdom's entrance in King's Pass, winding through Greenpath and the fungal wastes, and finally ending at the massive capital at Hallownest's heart. We now know the capital city as the City of Tears, but that was likely not its original name. The rain that falls down onto the city from the blue lake above didn't begin until after the kingdom collapsed. So unless the capital was originally named by some edgy literature student, the name City of Tears wouldn't have made much sense. The king's motivation for all this appears to have been his desire to be worshipped. The citizens of Hallownest believe that the Pale King created the world and everything in it. Shrines to the king can be found scattered throughout the kingdom, and king's idols were created and distributed to followers of the king. Despite the worship, the Pale King often kept himself hidden from his subjects, possibly to hide his blemishes. I mean, if you look at the size of the real Pale King to his statue in the ancient basin, the man is clearly overcompensating. The Pale King's White Palace was also built underneath the city, separating him from his subjects even more so. At the same time, certain powers became shunned in Hallownest, though we don't know for sure if the Pale King had anything to do with this. Lifeblood is a blue liquidy substance that leaves those who drink it feeling refreshed. However, the use of lifeblood was seen as a taboo, and those who used it were demonized as heretics. The use of soul for combat was also shunned. Soul is a sort of life force in Hollow Knight that animates the bodies of living creatures. But some characters are able to control the soul of others to conjure powerful spirits. But aside from a few exceptions, no citizens of Hallownest ever used this power. However, the Pale King didn't rule alone. There was another higher being in the mix. A being known as the White Lady.
The White Lady,
The White Lady is a weird brute-like being that can be found in the modern-day Queen's Gardens. She is encased in a strange cocoon, and we know very little about her. Did we get to that
part of the game?
With as much exposition we get for the Pale King, there is next to nothing on the White Lady. But one thing we do know is that she likes to breed.
Why do I not remember
a lot. The White Lady would often retreat to the Queen's Gardens, an area of land once controlled by the Moss Kid.
There's just so much in the game
How
to
exactly
remember.
she walked around and actually went places is a lore question too deep for even my expertise. The White Lady is also known as a pale being, along with the Pale King. What exactly are pale beings? Well, we don't know for sure, but they seem to stand out even amongst higher beings, as being even more powerful. I know that's a little confusing, so let's try using an example. I'd say that regular higher beings are like a TP-Link Archer C7 AC1750 wireless dual-band gigabit router, while pale beings are like the Asus RT-AX88U AX6000 dual-band 8X gigabit Wi-Fi router. Under the Pale King, Hallownest underwent a bit of an industrial revolution. He ordered the construction of the stagways, which were used to transport passengers and goods. The Forgotten Crossroads and the storerooms above the City of Tears were used to store goods that travel. No one is safe from the threat of automation. A tram was built between the Forgotten Crossroads and the resting grounds. A second tram was built from the Kingdom's edge across the ancient basin over to Deep Nest. And then a third tram was started in Deep Nest and attempted to go further into Deep Nest. Not sure how useful that would have been to the bugs of Hallownest, but whatever. The Pale King's a smart guy. I'm not gonna question him.
Is he?
But anyway, the Pale King's super smart plan to build a tram in Deep Nest ended up getting a few of his tram workers killed. The bugs of Deep Nest rejected the Pale King's attempt to build a tram in their territory, further cementing the poor relations shared between the two groups. Aside from convenient fast travel, Regular pathways were also used to cart goods around the kingdom.
Okay, so those
From
are
this was born probably one of the most important
groups
in Hallownest, and perhaps even all of fiction. An elusive guild of bugs, simply known as the Menderbugs, took to maintaining the various signs scattered throughout Hallownest.
Oh, okay.
From the journal entry of one Menderbug, we can catch a glimpse into their ancient and unknowable minds.
Dear, dear diary, isn't life just the most beautiful thing? Fixing signs, mending posts, let them break, I say. I'm a better mender for all that repairing.
I guess,
I
yeah,
sometimes
how do all
doubt
those
there's a
signs get
single
put up?
bug
It's these
in
guys.
all of Hallownest happier than me.
Another example of the Pale King's expanding infrastructure is the Crystal Peak. This area is filled with crystals that grow rapidly along walls, ceilings, and even the shells of certain bugs. These crystals were considered valuable to the bugs of Hallownest, resulting in large-scale mining efforts. We don't actually see the crystals used anywhere else in Hallownest, but they are said to contain a sort of energy. The crystals are also said to sing if you listen very carefully.
Oh, Menderbug is the best person in the game. Gotcha. Best bug in the game.
In terms of military, Hallownest's first line of defense appeared to be a group simply known as the Five Great Knights.
I do like the Menderbugs.
The members of this esteemed coalition were
Guess they also are, they're in Silksong as well.
Zamir,
so there must be Menderbugs and Farloom.
And Isma. For being so important, most of the information about these knights has been lost to time.
This seems
Ogrim
important.
is the knight we know the most about, since he is one of the few knights still alive during the events of the game. Ogrim expressed a great amount of loyalty towards the king, and he maybe had something going on with Isma, but we really don't know.
Oh my god.
Hagamol was known for his sense of humor and his soft-spoken voice, but at the same time, he was also dummy thick. Mysterious Samir arrived in Hallownest from a serene land, bringing with her a collection of delicate flowers. At some point, she also got into a relationship with a mantis, but not just any mantis, a daughter of one of the mantis lords.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it seems like these great knights were slaying in more ways than one. All we really know about Drya is that she was fierce, caring, and wise. As for Isma, she was described as being kind. She also appears to be some sort of weird plant life form, but there's no information on where she's from or what her powers were. The Five Great Knights play an important role in the Champion's Call, the Knotted Grove, and the Battle of the Black Worm. We have no idea what these events were or how they affected Hallownest, but they sound cool nonetheless.
They do sound cool.
During Hallownest's reign, there was another strange area that seemed to exist separate from the Pale King's rule. Carved out of the corpse of an ancient bug, an area called the Colosseum of Fools was constructed, and it was a destination for warriors from outside Hallownest. The sole purpose for fighting in the Colosseum appeared to be simply for glory,
oh my gosh,
with
we
a
really
mysterious
are, like,
figure known as the Lord Fool overseeing
everything
the combat.
in the map here.
We don't know when the Colosseum was
so
constructed or if the Pale King was involved, but one of his servants, the Pale Lurker, became a champion in the Colosseum,
oh my god.
perhaps indicating the Pale King's approval.
You're gonna send a
And
short
finally,
video I
there
should
was
watch
the
after this?
Railwater
Okay,
Race,
I'll
where
check
the
it out,
fecal
Fran.
excrement of the kingdom was washed out into the fungal wastes. This area saw the rise of a species of parasite-like creatures called the flukes. The flukes spawned from the fluke marm, a giant monster with cavities in which tinier flukes live. There really isn't too much lore involved with the flukes, but I do need to point out that the fluke marm is canonically a MILF.
You guys
Like,
had me
that's not even
look
debatable.
at that when we
The
were
sky
running
is
around the
blue,
god home.
2 + 2 = 4, and we all want to fuck
Oh
this thing.
gosh, okay.
And so this was the kingdom of Hallownest at its height. Hallownest was a vast kingdom connected by a network of stagways and tram stations. The bugs of Hallownest mourned their dead on the resting grounds, engaged in commerce using Geo, the de facto currency of the region, and a thriving capital located in the middle of the kingdom. The Pale King had succeeded in crafting a full-blown society, but we all know there are pitfalls to living in a society. As a suspiciously knowledgeable hunter points out in his journal, the Pale King had created a population of weak and pathetic creatures.
I like that guy.
The bugs of Hallownest did not hunt for their own food, and had become complacent with their comfort. This is even more obvious with the east wing of the capital. These greedy members of Hallownest's high society became complete cowards, obsessed with riches and plumb from excess wealth. The bugs living in Hallownest Prime looked quite different than the instinctive simpletons they once were. Their savagery had been replaced with intelligence, and through that intellect, they gave the Pale King the devotion and service he desired. And while there were a few snags along the way, they were shining times for the king and his subjects. Resting at the threshold of Hallownest is a strange lore tablet, proclaiming Hallownest to be the last and only civilization. It calls Hallownest an eternal kingdom. This appears to have been the Pale King's goal, for Hallownest to stand against a wasted world as a final beacon for civilization. And that was the Pale King's ultimate folly. To think that he could succeed where so many others had failed before. Long before the Pale Kings or the Barry Bensons of the world, the land of Hallownest was controlled by an ancient caste. Hints of Hallownest history are littered throughout the land, with the most notable examples being the soul totems and arcane eggs. One sect of these ancient bugs didn't worship a god like the Pale King or any lord, but instead a dark and mysterious substance known as the Void. This ancient caste once also tried to lay claim to the entire land of Hallownest, but they too failed. In his quest to conquer all of Hallownest, the Pale King had made an enemy long forgotten, an enemy that was about to be remembered.
Is it the Radiants?
I mentioned earlier that the Moth tribe entirely forgot about the Radiants in order to worship the Pale King, but that isn't quite true. Memories of her still lingered, and hushed whispers of faith kept the Radiants alive. At the summit of the Crystal Peak, a location known as Hallownest Crown, a strange collection of glyphs can be found.
That is true.
Joining these glyphs is a statue of the Radiants, presiding over the kingdom below. This old summit is the sole standing shrine left to the Radiants. This was built in order to keep the memory of the Radiants alive.
This is so interesting.
The Radiants' light began to appear in the dreams of Hallownest citizens. This light manifested itself in an infection that ravaged through the kingdom's tunnels. Those infected would fall into a deep sleep and awaken with broken minds. Some of the lesser bugs tried to resist the Radiance' light, which only resulted in them being consumed by it even more so. Many infected bugs lost their wills and began attacking bugs that weren't infected. The infection also twisted the bodies of its hosts, causing them to bloat and occasionally develop orange cysts on their bodies.
They should make a Hollow Knight show.
For many
I'd
victims,
watch it.
They were reverted back to their basic instincts, carrying out the duties they once fulfilled in life, but now as mindless slaves. Those caught up in the infection were linked into the Radiance's hive mind,
this would make, like,
allowing
a great,
her to control their bodies if
story
needed.
Arc.
As the infection spread across Hallownest, many groups looked to solutions to fight off the Radiance's light. The gates to the City of Tears were closed in an attempt to keep the infection from reaching the city. The stagways were also shut down at some point, and many of the stags eventually died out. But some took more proactive efforts against the infection.
I guess for the
scholars of the Soul Sanctum decided to harness the power of Soul in an attempt to fight the infection. This resulted in the deaths of hundreds of bugs, whose souls were sucked out and injected into the bodies of the scholars. Their goal was to achieve some kind of pure focus, which would somehow protect them from plagues of the mind.
Pale King would be a sick main character,
the Soul Master, was driven mad by the sheer power of Soul, and his entire sect failed to avoid infection. But hey, at least they took as many innocent people down with them as they could.
Like a tragic
the Mantis tribe, showing a stronger will than the common bug, were able to stave off the infection. However, one of the 4 Mantis Lords turned against his sisters. He and his followers took in the infection willingly, as it gave them more strength and courage. At some point during all this, the Traitor Lord and his followers were exiled from the Mantis village, eventually taking up residence in the Queen's Gardens.
Oh my gosh, Silkson
the Traitor Lord's daughter ended up dying at some point. This is the same Mantis that was in a relationship with Zamir, one of the 5 Great Knights, but the Mantises rejected their union because of Zamir's outsideness.
Like, there's so many things
As a gamer, this type of prejudice is all too familiar, and honestly, it makes me sick. With the 5 Great Knights completely useless to fight against the infection, the Pale King devised his own scheme. A scheme involving a strange substance known as Void. As I mentioned earlier, the Pale King's White Palace was built in an area called the Ancient Basin, but his castle wasn't the only noteworthy thing down there.
Void.
At the bottom of the Ancient Basin was the entrance to a pit known as the Abyss. Within the Abyss was a lake composed of void. The Pale King realized that this void could be given form, as evidenced by an imprint of such deep within the Abyss. possibly left there by the ancient civilization that predated Hallownest. The Pale King devised a workshop in his palace, where he placed void and armor shells imbued with soul, creating servants known as King's Molds and Wing Molds.
Oh,
These
that's
void creatures were somehow imprinted with the desire of the Pale King, so that they would serve him. It isn't clear when the Pale King started making these creatures. There is evidence to imply that even common bugs were aware of King's Molds, but the point is, the Pale King turned to the void in order to create another creature, one that he believed could contain the Radiance and her infection.
I see.
He tried to
I see where
create
this is
a
going.
pure vessel. The Radiance's
pure
infection
vessel.
needs its host to have a will and a mind in order to enslave it. A pure vessel would be a creature made of void designed to lack those features. The Pale King believed that by
gonna be
harnessing the
us.
void inside a pure vessel, he would be able to stop the infection and keep Hallownest lasting eternal. But his method for creating this so-called pure vessel was incredibly cruel. This is where the White Lady and her King Kong-sized
Oh,
libido
jeez.
come into
I heard
play.
about this part.
These two higher beings engaged in a union of some kind, resulting in the creation of several eggs that were dropped down into the abyss. There, the void seeped into these eggs, corrupting the offspring of the Pale King and the White Lady. This act
crazy.
resulted in the creation of the vessels. The vessels are not technically considered to be alive. They are shells
That's
created from the Pale
us.
King and White Lady that have been filled with the void. Within each vessel is a shade, a completely void being hidden behind the face of the vessel. Vessels are also non-gendered, I guess because they're dead or something. I'm not
Okay,
sure
I've
if that's
also
how that
learned
works,
that.
but whatever. I'm not an expert on these kinds of
I
things.
called the night
I don't work at
bro
ICE
in a
anymore.
short.
Thousands
and
of vessels
people-
were created
people
during
rushed
this
to correct
process,
me.
but only one was chosen as the pure vessel.
Void
This particular
babies,
vessel,
yay.
chosen by the Pale King,
That's crazy.
was deemed the Hollow Knight, and was taken away to the White Palace.
The Hollow Knight.
But I want to take a bit of a closer look at this part of the story. There are a number of questions and theories surrounding this moment that I really want to dig into. The big question surrounding this moment is, why was the Hollow Knight chosen over any other vessel? One common theory is that the Pale King took these vessels back to the White Palace and evaluated them using his
Scary.
giant collection of buzzsaws. This theory is probably the least likely
The
explanation.
least likely,
It kinda
okay.
exists just to explain the buzzsaws, which is quite the mystery, I'll admit, but doesn't really mesh with the vessels very well. How does being good at Super Meat Boy prove that you are a worthy vessel? And while thinking about logistics in a game about magic bugs is never a good idea, how exactly did
Oh,
the
it was
Pale
so
King
sad.
transfer
When
these
I did
thousands
Path
of
of
vessels
Pain, I
to his
died to the
palace
fight at
without
the end,
characters
first
like the
time
Dung
I beat
Defender
it after
finding
like
out?
3 hours.
So this means that the Pale
Several
King probably made
hours.
his decision without taking any of the vessels out of the abyss. So how did the Pale King
Trauma.
make his evaluation? I think the best explanation comes from a theory I originally heard from a user named Golden Flower Fan.
Okay.
Basically, the vessels were hatched down at the bottom of the abyss, and the first one to make it to the top was chosen by the
Oh,
Pale
okay.
King. In a memory of this event, we see vessels falling from above back down
Yeah.
into the pit of the abyss. Perhaps these vessels weren't being cast down into the abyss, but
It's
fell
like-
while trying to
It's like
escape out of
Farloom.
it.
We're trying to
The
climb
lore
up.
tablet outside the abyss
and up.
appears to support this theory. It reads, "Our pure vessel has ascended. Beyond lies only the refuse and regret of its creation. We shall enter that place no longer."
Oh, okay.
This tablet was likely written right after the Hollow Knight was chosen, considering that is when the entrance to the abyss was sealed off. The tablet proclaims that the pure vessel has ascended, or in other words, climbed out of the abyss. And while cut content should never be considered canon, I would just like to point out that an earlier version of this tablet, found in the
Oh?
game's code, was even more explicit about this. It
Interesting.
read, "From below, our pure vessel has ascended." But how does
Ah.
making it to the top of the abyss first prove that the Hollow Knight is somehow a perfectly hollow vessel? Well, I think this whole concept might just be a misconception. What if the Hollow Knight wasn't any different from the other vessels? All the vessels were made in the exact same way after all. The idea that the Hollow Knight was somehow more hollow than the other vessels comes from the fact that there were so many vessels created in the first place.
Interesting.
If they only needed one, then why
Why,
create
yeah,
so
why make so
goddamn
many?
many? I mean, this is like Octomom on steroids. Well, these are bugs we're talking about, so it would make sense that multiple offspring would come from one egg. and it might have been a precaution to produce multiple vessels in hopes that at least one would be able to successfully escape the abyss. Now another explanation could be that the Pale King just yeeted other vessels that made it to the top first, after determining that they weren't hollow, which would better explain why so many were created. Ultimately, the exact details aren't super important, but I do find it interesting how many different interpretations can be pulled from this part of the lore.
Yeah, there are
After
so
the
many
Hollow Knight was
different
chosen, the Pale King sealed
here.
the doorway to the abyss, leaving the discarded vessels to rot away in darkness. These actions were not taken lightly by the Pale King or the White Lady. Both participants expressed shame in what they did, but saw no other option to save the kingdom. But the vessels weren't the only poor saps sealed away in the abyss. There's also a lighthouse that was built on top of a naturally formed
I do
spire,
remember that.
its light shining down on an ocean of abyss below. Inside was one of the Pale King's royal retainers, who was left in charge of keeping the lighthouse turned on. So this brave soul was willingly sealed in a dark and dangerous tomb for the rest of his life, just so he could not pull a lever. Well, at least he was living with purpose. With the abyss sealed and the Hollow Knight chosen, the Pale King's plan was beginning to come together. The Hollow Knight was raised and trained to prime form, causing it to grow several times its original size. We don't know exactly why this happened, but I guess the Hollow Knight is just a grower and not a shower. We know that the Hollow Knight was trained to use a nail, but why was this even necessary?
I don't know what that is.
One possible explanation is that the Hollow Knight needed to protect itself in case an intruder tried to kill it.
That didn't look like...
You know, like the player. Or perhaps this was important in the process of containing the Radiance. Unfortunately, the details of that are never fully explained. The Hollow Knight might have somehow focused the Radiance inside itself, but Team Cherry gives us no explanation of how that might have worked. But that still wasn't enough for the Pale King. Additional seals were needed in order to protect the Hollow Knight's physical body while the Radiance was trapped inside of it. To achieve this, the Pale King sought the help of 3 particular bugs who would later be known as the Dreamers.
Yes.
Lurien the Watcher, Motomon the Teacher, and Hera the Beast. Lurien is definitely the most mysterious of the 3 Dreamers. He lived in the Watcher's Spire in the City of Tears.
I'm curious about the Beast.
From there, Lurien watched over the city with his telescope. Lurien was a pretty big fan of the king, so it probably took little convincing for him to lie down for him.
Isolated from everything
Lurien
else.
might also be tied to another strange incident that occurred in the City of Tears. Hidden on some of Lurien's lore tablets are images of jars, the same jars that can be found stockpiled in the Tower of Love.
Okay.
This building sits on the outskirts of the city, and is the setting of one of the most bizarre bosses in the game, the Collector. The Collector is a void construct that appears to have been made from the same mold used to create the King's molds. But the Collector is unique because, well, Good grief, he's naked! The Collector stayed in the Tower of Love with a noble bug who likely owned the establishment. In the tower, a number of bugs can be found captured in jars, implying that these 2 were tasked with collecting these creatures. However, the Collector somehow became obsessed with grubs, creating a map to keep track of grubs it captured in jars, as well as keeping a strange shrine displaying a grub in the style of the Vitruvian Man. Eventually, the bug staying with the Collector decided to lock it inside the Tower of Love, and fled to the Queen's Gardens, where it died, likely due to overexposure to the void. Despite being locked up in the tower, the Collector is still spotted by the Hunter at some point, which either means this only happened recently, or the Hunter has been farting around in Hallownest for a long-ass time. We have no idea what these creatures were trying to do. It's implied that the Collector was trying to preserve the creatures of Hallownest, perhaps trying to protect them from the spread of the infection.
Is it time for sadness? I keep saying everything feels so tragic, but also welcome in, Ellis.
And while Lurien does seem connected to all of this, we don't know how involved he was with this operation, or what its end goal exactly was.
Morning or night.
Motomon the Teacher lived in the Teacher's Archives, a library built atop a lake of acid in the Fog Canyon.
Okay.
The lower half of her body consists of tentacles, making her a popular subject for the thriving Hollow Knight R34 community.
That's fun.
The archives and the Fog Canyon as a whole are also filled with these strange Metroid knockoffs. These creatures are likely related to Motomon in some way.
I'm wondering how...
They could be her live offspring, her test tube babies, or possibly even her shit.
I don't know. How does
Voldemort
that
uses
map, like,
futuristic cathode ray tube
map-wise?
things to store information about Hallownest. Several
Working from
terminals
home
in the
today?
teacher's
Yay,
archive go into
awesome.
detail about the Pale
Those are the
King's
best
plan
days,
to defeat
Alice.
the Radiants, indicating that Voldemort had intimate knowledge of what she was taking part in. Finally, the Pale King sought the help of Hera the Beast,
Yeah, how did
the
this
Queen
work
of
out?
Deepnest. Now, as I mentioned earlier, relations between Hallownest and Deepnest were kinda
Not good.
not great. Unlike the other two dreamers, Hera needed to be convinced in order to help the Pale King. Hera would eventually agree to become a dreamer, in exchange for a child. The Pale King agreed, and the two engaged in a dalliance, which is a fancy way of saying they
Hornet!
totally
Oh my
boned.
gosh, this is where Hornet
The White
comes
Lady
in.
was okay with this arrangement. In fact, she might have been watching from the
Oh.
closet. The motive behind Hera's request is never elaborated on, but it appears as though the King of Deepnest was dead at this point. Hera was a common bug, so perhaps she desired the Pale King's pale seed so
Oh.
that her child could be of high birth. The bargain between Hera and the Pale King resulted in the birth of Hornet.
Yay!
She became known as the gendered child because, unlike the Pale King's other children, Hornet was not hollowed out by the Abyss. Hera and Hornet spent little time together, as Hera had to make good on her end of the bargain. And so the three dreamers were put to rest.
That's why Hornet is a
Through their
demigod.
actions,
That makes
a seal
sense,
was
Fran.
placed over the black egg, prohibiting entrance into the chamber.
I'm learning
These dreamers
things.
also had their own protection.
The Watcher
At the base of
Knights.
Lurien's spire, the Watcher Knights guarded access to their master's
Damn,
body.
every single
Motomon's
thing.
body was protected by a
has
giant
a lore
jellyfish named
explanation.
Umu. On top
Every
of this,
single thing.
Motomon entrusted her servant Quirrell with a mask which would be required to break an
Quirrell.
additional seal she had placed over herself. So she basically is double wrapping herself. As for Hera, we're not really sure what protected her, since it is never actually seen in-game. We don't know where this creature is hiding, but whoever it is, they really suck at their job. Now there appears to be one more element to the Pale King's plan, involving the Weavers. Hidden away in the Weaver's Den is an incomplete seal of binding, woven from silk. This design prominently features the Hollow Knight's head, and can be found in the White Palace, as well as blocking the exit during the Hollow Knight fight. Silk spools created by the Weavers can be found in the Stag Station in Deepnest, as well as the Stag Station next to the White Palace.
I wonder.
These spools
what's
can
up
also
with
be
the
found in the
silk?
Pale King's workshop.
That's
We know that the
important.
Weavers were
Silk's on,
closely tied to
obviously.
Hera and Hornet,
But
so their actions
you
might
like
have
when
been a
devs
part
put
of the
everything
deal
in her
between
game
the
with a
Pale
purpose.
King
Yeah,
and
no,
Hera.
it's crazy. Even like
Once
the
the Hollow Knight was ready,
backgrounds,
the
every
Radiance was
single
somehow
little
channeled
thing.
into the vessel, which was then placed inside of a giant black egg located in the Forgotten Crossroads.
Every single little thing.
This egg was
has an
built to sustain the
explanation.
Hollow Knight, and itself appears to be fashioned from void. The Hollow Knight was chained up, and the entrance to the black egg was locked behind a powerful seal created by the three dreamers. Initially, this convoluted plan actually worked, and the infection was successfully
Until the
contained.
kingdom collapses.
Memorials to the Hollow Knight and the Dreamers were
Right?
erected in the
Right?
City of Tears and the Resting Grounds. But this is the part of the story where things get a little
okay.
bit hazy. By the time these statues were constructed, citizens had taken to writing on parchment woven from spider silk, which was all destroyed when water started pouring down onto the city. We don't know how long the Hollow Knight was able to completely contain the infection. Bugs from Dirtmouth used
If
to
you
go
make
to the
your
Temple of the
game with
Black
love,
Egg to
people love your
pray,
game.
saying they felt at
Exactly.
peace within the walls.
I love how
But after a while, they stopped
Silksong
going,
was delayed
perhaps
not
indicating
because
that
of
the infection was
difficulty,
beginning
but
to leak
because
out
they were
again.
having so much fun
The
making
infectious air
it that
continued
it
to seep
just
through
kept
Hallownest for
growing.
years,
And I think
eventually
that's why
even
it's
reaching the
so
deepest
good,
parts of the
you know?
kingdom. As it turns out, the Pale King's pure vessel
That's
wasn't quite
why
so
it's
pure
able to
after
live
all.
up to all the
The
hype.
Hollow Knight had been tarnished by an idea instilled. While the game never explicitly tells us what that idea was, it does hint strongly at what it might be. Hidden away in the White Palace is a memory showing the Hollow Knight and the Pale King sharing a moment. The Hollow Knight might have developed a parental bond to the Pale King, and who could blame it? The Pale King is a pretty great dad after all.
Is he?
You know, if you ignore the infanticide and
There you
everything.
go.
Remember those smug mushroom dickheads? Well, it turns out their trust in the Pale King was a
I like
complete
these guys,
mistake.
though.
That shared mind
I like
isn't
the
looking too good
mushrooms.
now, is it? In the fungal core, the corpse of a giant mushroom lies dormant. Its final thoughts were, "Pale worm, what good to see a demise unavoidable?" This could imply that the Pale King always knew that his kingdom was doomed. All he could do was delay the
Delay it,
inevitable.
Yeah.
This is likely the moment when Hallownest as it once was entirely collapsed. the Hollow Knight had not completely stopped the infection, and while it may have taken a while, Hallownest was eventually brought low. It's at this point that characters and areas begin to resemble as we know them in-game. When it became clear that the Hollow Knight was not able to contain the radiance, the Pale King resorted to his final plan.
It's funny you get a 2-second cutscene for doing a Path of Pain and everyone's response is, that's all I get.
At this point,
yeah,
all of the furniture in the palace was covered under white sheets. Similar to how people in the real world cover their furniture
knowing
while
the
away
lore
on
now,
long
though.
trips.
I see how it's...
The palace was also completely covered with thorns and buzzsaws. Similar to how people in the real world cover their houses with thorns and buzzsaws.
Yeah, I like to.
The Pale King would eventually pass away while sitting on his throne in the White Palace. There's no confirmation on what killed him, but there are a few
it is
things
a window
to consider.
into the root cause of the
The
entire
throne room
game,
is incredibly dark,
but you also get like
compared to the
that
rest of the palace,
tiny
and the particle effects
tiny
and ambient
parental
track in this
moment.
room are identical to that of the Abyss. All of the king's molds surrounding the Pale King are dead. The ancient basin itself also has become stained with the presence of void, as it can be seen as high as the rundown elevator shaft leading back to the city. Remember that bug that was sealed away in the Abyss to make sure the lighthouse wasn't turned off?
Poor chap.
Well,
this was suck.
The lighthouse was turned off. I guess that whole living with purpose thing is a crock of shit after all. It seems as though the Sea of Void itself actually convinced this bug to betray his king and turn off the lighthouse.
How does that work?
Now I know what you're thinking. Exactly how conscious is the Void? Is the Void able to think for itself? Can it form strategies? Does it host a podcast? Well, according to this Chozo statue ripoff, the Void is powerful, but not unified. So while it can thrash around at things that come near it, or call out in unison to turn off a light, it's not a single conscious being.
Interesting.
Getting back to the Pale King, one could argue that the Void might have played a role in his ultimate
I didn't
demise,
say earlier, but Fran, thanks
and I've
for
argued that viewpoint in the past. But we have to remember that there isn't enough evidence to know for sure. As an expert lawyer and a good friend of mine, Johnny Cochran, once said, "Any evidence that the Void was involved in the Pale King's death is circumstantial." My name is Johnny Cochran. Just above the White Palace, the bugs in the City of Tears weren't faring much better. Even if we ignore the fact that the infection was still around, there were other issues that helped lead to the city's downfall. Due to the gates being sealed, some bugs resorted to cannibalism in order to avoid starvation. And there's also that metric fuckton of corpses lining the walls of the Soul Sanctum. When all was said and done, the only citizen left standing is Eternal Emelita, who just laughs her ass off about it like she's a fucking Dark Souls character. The White Lady ends up in a cocoon deep within the Queen's gardens. She decided to place bindings on herself in order to keep her from spreading her seed. She claims that this is because of the shame she feels in helping the Pale King create the vessels, but honestly, it's probably just her kink. The White Lady also diminished her power, possibly as a way to keep herself hidden from unwanted visitors. Outside her cocoon, Drya stood guard, protecting her queen from the violent traitor mantises. Drya is eventually killed off by these bugs, which is actually pretty pathetic if you think about it. I mean, we're talking like the Netgear WPN824N
I don't know, those mantises were kind of
N150
beating my
wireless
ass
router
too in the
pathetic.
Queen's Gardens, not gonna lie.
Speaking of great knights dying pathetically, let's move on to Hagemel. Hagemel held the city crest, a key used to open one of the gates to the
Silksong
City of
recommendations. You've been
Tears.
playing the
At
needle
some
in
point,
everywhere, and it
Hagemel's
has a
armor shell
lot
was
of little
stolen by a
interactions.
maggot.
Okay.
Now maggots
I'll
were
try
generally
to
looked down upon and
use
forced
it
to
more
do
often.
menial
I'll
labor.
use it like the
They
dream
were
now.
incredibly
Everywhere,
weak
every NPC
and basically
we meet.
deserved all of the discrimination they got. But this one maggot decided to turn the tide, so he stole Hagemel's shell so that he could defend his downtrodden brothers. His actions weren't motivated by the infection, but instead was the result of how hierarchical caste systems will always lead to revolution for the working class, and that true freedom can only be achieved blah blah blah, capitalism is bad, subscribe to my Patreon. Ogre moved to the Royal Waterways and started living in shit, changing his name to Dung Defender. Now I love wallowing in shit as much as the next guy, but you'd have to really love shit to put up with living with the flukes.
And living
the Dung
in
Defender
shit.
kept an unwavering sense of duty and loyalty to the king, and love for his fellow knights. So much so that he made shit statues of them.
That's crazy. I did
How
not
nice.
notice that.
Ogrim acted as the defender of the pipeways, as well as Isma's Grove. A section of the Royal Waterways became filled with acid, and in the middle of it all rests Isma's corpse, which has been overcome by plant life. Isma is likely the one responsible for this acid blight, but we have no idea what happened to her.
Isma.
Hornet's whereabouts during this time are fairly mysterious. We know that she departed Deep Nest and didn't return until the events of the game. At some point, she took to guarding Halnest from intruding warriors, as well as the cast-off shell in the Kingdom's Edge. Despite the Kingdom's woes at large, fortunately this fate did not befall one of the fandom's favorite characters. The Menderbugs continued to fix the broken signs and wayposts of Halnest. From a diary entry, we can see that one Menderbug in particular had found himself on the precipice of a long and loving relationship.
Hello again, diary. Not long now until the next Minder Bash. For us stealthy types, we're a riotous bunch when we get together. And Minderberry kept flashing me that smile. It might be time to muster my courage and act on it.
I think I remember
I love
these
my
diary
home
entries.
and my life, but sharing it with another? Why, that'd be the berry on top.
Greenpath also underwent some changes during this time. The Mosskin were waiting for Un's call, which would bring them back into the dream they were originally born from. But for some reason, Un's strength deteriorated. We don't know why this happened exactly. Was it due to the White Lady claiming part of her kingdom? Was it somehow due to the infection?
Like, how did those
Some
vines get
Mosskin
there?
believe that Un went
sense.
into hiding, but it appears as though Un is, in fact, calling to her children. But many of the Mosskin are unable to hear her call. Instead, many Mosskin seem to have taken the Radiance's infection into their leaves, which might explain why Greenpath became overgrown with vegetation despite Un's deteriorating powers. Mossy vagabonds even openly chose to forsake Un and worship
I never
the
did
Radiance.
either. I just saw like the entries.
Another
I
tribe
think.
to be screwed over by the Radiance
Unless
is the
I
Hive,
didn't,
which
and
fell
I'm
to
just
the infection after the death of
having
their
false
leader,
memories
Hive
now.
Queen Vespa. But it appears as though this had little effect on their civilization. The Radiance's hive mind was already familiar to the bees, since the Hive probably operated under something similar already.
I wonder if they are
so in
like
other words, the
physically somewhere
Hive
in
probably
the game.
made out the best in this whole
You're
situation.
only able to see it in one
Let's
room.
turn our attention
really?
back to the moths. After all, it's their god that keeps killing everybody.
Did I find
Well, the
them
moth
then?
tribe didn't fare too
don't know
well,
if I did
actually,
then.
as pretty much the entire tribe died out. The only known survivor is the seer. Despite the loss of her tribe, the seer continued
gotcha,
to tend to the
Alice.
graves in the resting grounds, while also waiting the arrival of the wielder, a mysterious being that her tribe has dreamt of for a while.
The wielder.
In the Kingdom's Edge, the land became covered in ash molting off of the worm's decomposing corpse. The Colosseum of Fools continued to thrive. The Lord Fool passed away at some point,
Oh my
but
god.
nobody really seems to notice or even care. The fools inside the Colosseum were infected, but still seem to have maintained control over
I
themselves.
did kind of notice.
It seems possible that these
playing
bugs
those
took in the
Colosseums
infection
that
willingly, similar to the
dude
Trader
just-
Lord and
he's just
his
dead.
followers.
He's just dead.
This would have given them an edge in combat, similar to using steroids, but without the whole shrinking
You
testicles
have to kill
thing.
Memderbug to
However,
get access to
even
the
the
rooms.
Trader
Oh
Lord
no,
and his followers
maybe
went
maybe
mad.
I didn't.
So what makes these fools any more
find it.
special?
I'm
As
just
for the Pale King's champion,
somehow
the Pale
remembering
Lurker,
that I did.
well, she just went
But
the
it's
normal
the first
kind
time
of
you go into
insane.
crosswords from Dirtmouth.
There appears to have been another
unforeseen.
unforeseen event with the Pale King's
Oh
plan.
really, Alice?
When the Hollow Knight
2%
was originally
chance.
chosen, the door to the abyss was sealed, trapping the discarded
Maybe I
vessels
did- maybe I
within.
didn't
But
find it.
apparently, some vessels didn't get the memo. Vessel corpses can be found littered throughout the kingdom. There's one in the Ancient Basin,
The
one in
broken
Greenpath,
vessel.
and several trapped in Nosk's lair in Deep Nest. Another vessel that escaped from the abyss is the player character, the Knight. The exact details on how the vessels escaped the abyss is unclear. There are indications that they might have slipped into Deep Nest through some old passageway, given void influences in part of the area, and all the corpses found in Nosk's lair. At some point, all entrances to Hollownest were closed off, with the old well in Dirtmouth being the only way to sneak back in. Despite this, several people have wormed their way into the kingdom, with few ever returning. Characters like Relic Seeker Lem seemed content to just pillage artifacts from the ruined kingdom, but other bugs seemed interested in something greater. In the Howling Cliffs rests the corpse of a member of the Grim Troop.
The Grim
The
Troop.
task of this bug appears to have been to seek out Hallownest, so that the troop might be summoned to the kingdom in the future. The Grim Troop are basically a group of bugs that serve a higher being known as the Nightmare Heart.
The Nightmare
The troop
Heart.
keeps the heart alive by feeding on the nightmares of fallen kingdoms. This
this is
process also
interesting.
involves sacrificing the troop master to his own child because, hey, look at this cool ass boss battle. Another important group that traveled to Hallownest are the God Seekers. After being abandoned by their old gods, the gods of thunder and the gods of rain, these bugs left their
thunder
home
and
in the land
rain.
of storms, seeking out a new god to worship. The God Seekers look to gods to save them from their own silent mind. While traveling through the wastelands, the God Seekers constructed devices called God Tuners,
you learned this
which helped them seek out new gods. Through this device, they were able to detect the lingering power of the Pale King and find their way to Hallownest. When they arrived, however, the God Seeker was forced into hibernation. She was encased in a strange sarcophagus-like cocoon, which was itself chained up with a lock. It's not clear how this forced hibernation worked, seeing as the cocoon appears to have been made by the God Seeker herself.
Really?
As for who put the cocoon in chains, I think the most likely candidate is the Dung Defender,
you have to spoil
considering
me.
how the God Seeker's cocoon is found in the Dung Pit in the waterways, an area the Dung Defender has tasked himself with protecting.
I think we already beat
This was
him in
the general picture of
Pantheon.
Hallownest after the Hollow Knight was sealed inside the Temple of the Black Egg. The kingdom was stuck in a kind of stasis, with the Pale King civilization destroyed and the Radiants unable to break free from her chains. The Pale King was rebelling against nature, trying to keep his work standing indefinitely. The stasis over Hallownest held for an age. How long is that exactly? Well, we have no idea.
We have no idea.
As I'm sure you've noticed, there really isn't a timeline for anything that happens in this game. We also have no idea how long any of these bugs can actually live. Elderbug wasn't around to see the stagways open, but we know several other characters were, implying that Elderbug is probably one of the youngest characters in the whole game.
That's kind of silly.
But this stasis over Hallownest wasn't going to last forever. At some point, the Radiance erupted out of the Hollow Knight, cracking its shell and releasing a loud and powerful roar. The amount of infection leaking out of the Hollow Knight became even greater. The many corpses that line the roads and cities of the kingdom sprang to life with the amplified
that's
power
why the
of the
crossroads
infection.
get infected
This
first.
strengthened infection prompted the departure of the Weavers back to their old home. Now this old home might actually be Farloom,
As
the
we're
kingdom in
breaking
which
the-
Hollow Knight
the
Silksong
Dreamer's
takes
vines.
place. But the amount of knowledge we have about Silksong right now is pathetic,
Silksong
so I'm
spoilers.
not saying that's confirmed or anything.
Although I'm sure
This is
was
also around the
out
time that Quirrell
very long
arrives
time
back
ago.
in Hallownest. His memory of Motomon appears to have been clouded due to his time
Pace from the
outside of
wiki again.
Hallownest.
How
These
grand a
events are
stage,
depicted
a
in the
charming
Quirrell
ritual
prequel
of pleasure,
comic,
an
which
honor
also
seeker
shows an
to
image
attend
of the
your
Hollow
call.
Knight with a
Ooh, okay.
pre-cracked shell.
That third one's cute.
This could mean that Quirrell's arrival
cute.
happens
It's
roughly the same
cool.
time the Hollow Knight's shell cracks. At around the same time Quirrell arrives in Hallownest, we also see the
That's good
arrival
to know.
of the player
Thanks, Ellis.
character, who is commonly
quite like
referred to
that.
as the Knight. The Knight was one of the lucky vessels that was able to make its way out of the
Yay,
abyss.
we get out of
Somehow
the abyss.
Knight ended up venturing beyond Hallownest and into the wilds beyond.
It is funny that
implied
he's
the
aware
Knight
he's
was
in the
called to
Pantheon,
Hallownest
yeah.
by either the sealed Hollow Knight or the Radiance within. Regardless, once the Knight shows up and yeets itself off this cliff, the actual game of Hollow Knight finally begins. Now, there's a lot of details we could get into. Hallownest is full of NPCs and bosses, each with their own stories to tell. But to be honest, I don't think we need to go through all of them, since their stories are relatively straightforward. For example, let's look at the Brooding Moloch. So why is the Brooding Moloch brooding? Because all its friends are dead.
Oh,
And there
no.
you go. That's the lore for the Brooding Moloch. Also, it's the only character in the game with a visible asshole.
Oh.
Now, did you really need me to
Good to
explain
know.
that to you? Probably not. So instead, I'm just going to talk about the interactions relating to Hollow Knight's main story. The Knight is eventually noticed by Hornet,
Man, those
who
dodges
lures
on
it
that
deep
kinda-
into
kinda
Greenpath.
cracked there.
There, Hornet attempts to kill the Knight, claiming that she knows what it would try to do. At this point, Hornet views the Knight as being too weak. After the fight, Hornet can be found in the City of Tears, next to the statue of the Hollow Knight. Hornet mentions that the Knight has gained a resilience, due to the time it spent in the void beyond Hallownest. This could be referring to the fact that some of those who leave Hallownest lose their memories,
Oh,
meaning the
really?
Knight would have no memories of its own tragic conception.
That
Hornet
can't be
tells
true.
the
There's
Knight
no
that
way
if
we
it
don't
seeks to
actually
continue the stasis
eventually
that
get a
keeps
view of
Hallownest standing,
Flukeworm's
it must seek the
posts.
Graven
That's
Hash,
crazy.
which is referring to the
The
Kingdom's
Fluke
Edge.
Marm.
At this moment, Hornet sees the
Ah.
Knight as a possible replacement for the Hollow
the
Knight.
MILF worm.
Basically, the
MILF
Knight could
Marm.
break the seals that keep the Hollow Knight locked away,
That's
defeat the Hollow
crazy.
Knight,
That's crazy that
and
that's like
contain
part
the
of the
infection
actual like
itself.
canon.
It's at this point that I should mention that Hollow Knight actually has 5 different endings, because of course it would.
5!
I'm going to be
Really?
explaining each of these endings in this video, as they each give us a different glimpse
You know,
into
sure.
the mechanics of Hollow
I'm down to
Knight's
learn about
world.
the other endings.
Now, to get the easiest ending
think
to
we've
Hollow Knight,
gotten
Hornet's instructions to go to the
3?
Kingdom's Edge can be ignored completely. If the Knight stumbles
We've
upon the
gotten 3.
resting grounds, the 3 Dreamers will appear and cast the Knight into the Dream Realm. There, Seer will come to the Knight's rescue and grant it the Dream Nail, a special blade that can tear the veil between the real world and the dream world.
We got that
With the
pretty
dream
late
nail,
in our
the knight can
playthrough, I
venture to the
think.
resting places of the 3 dreamers, curb stomp their asses, and unlock the entrance
You're
to the
back,
Black
but
Egg.
for the worst part of
Inside
spoilers,
the
no,
egg, the knight finds the
Haley!
Hollow Knight chained up, silently watching over it. Once the chains are broken, the Hollow Knight screams with that familiar radiance
Should
roar
probably be paying
and
attention
pursues
to
the
your
knight.
online cybersecurity
As the
training
fight
right
progresses,
now.
the Hollow Knight starts trying to
Probably,
kill
but
itself,
also
Quirrell style.
Hollow Knight lore.
But then the Radiant starts using the
This
Hollow
is so
Knight's body to
cool.
perform her own
I don't
attacks.
blame you, Ellis.
Once defeated, the Hollow Knight begins to spew infection all over the place. The Knight can then focus the infection into itself.
Yes, this
This
is
results
the
in the
first
first
ending we
ending of
got.
the game, called Hollow Knight.
Oh,
In
they
this
have different
ending, the Knight
names.
usurps the Hollow Knight, prolonging the stasis over Hallownest. New chains and bindings appear out of fuck if I know, and contain the Knight, and a new seal is placed over the entrance to the Black Egg. Now there is one giant question looming over this ending.
Did
Can
it
the Knight
work?
actually contain the
Yes.
infection indefinitely, or will the Radiant still manage to break free one day? Before we answer this question, let's look at some of the other events that can transpire while playing the game. If the player chooses to go to Kingdom's Edge, Hornet will challenge the Knight one last time as a final test of strength. After her defeat, Hornet allows the Knight to access the cast-off shell, where the Pale King was originally hatched. By interacting with this egg,
Interesting.
the Knight's shell is marked with the King's brand, technically making the Knight the new ruler of Hallownest. With the King's brand, the Knight can now open the entrance to the Abyss
Hornet
and
just
discover the
kinda
place of
lets
its
us
birth.
past after
When
we
leaving
beat
the
her.
Abyss, the Knight can encounter Hornet again,
like that.
where for the first time, Hornet suggests that there are actually 2 outcomes the Knight can enact. She tells the Knight that it can either prolong Hallownest's stasis, or face the heart of the Kingdom's infection.
Ah, the
Within
Radiance
the Knight,
fight.
Hornet sees a chance for change. Instead of just replacing the Hollow Knight, Hornet believes that it may be possible to get rid of the infection completely by using the void inside of the Knight.
Interesting.
After visiting the Abyss and obtaining the Shade Cloak, the Knight is capable of reaching the White Lady, hidden away in the Queen's Gardens. The White Lady tells the Knight that she has been awaiting a vessel to accept a gift, that gift being one half of a charm called the King's Soul, which she claims will give the Knight more power. The White Lady goes on to explain that she can feel the weakening of the Hollow Knight within her roots. She tells the Knight that it is free of the blemishes that made the Hollow Knight a flawed vessel. From this dialogue, it is implied that the Knight truly is a pure vessel,
Gamer
capable of containing
Sorry,
the Radiant successfully.
I definitely
But it's
butchered
not
that.
quite
But
that
thank you for
simple,
the follow.
so we're gonna have to
I
dig a
appreciate
bit
it.
deeper into this.
We're
Basically,
learning.
we're gonna need to answer a simple question. What exactly does it mean to be a Hollow Knight?
That is
Despite
true.
the
How
White
do you be
Lady's
hollow?
words, we have a number of instances where the characters and item descriptions mention that the Knight has a will, and maybe even a mind. But from the Pale King's dialogue when describing the Hollow Knight, it is stated that a pure
No
vessel
will to
has
break.
no mind or will.
I see.
So is the White Lady wrong? Or maybe even lying? Her eyes have been clouded by time, and she can be tricked into thinking that Ogrim is in the room when the
I hope
Knight
you're
is
having a
wearing the
good
Defender's
day,
Quest charm.
gamer.
She also thinks
hello,
that Dryas is
Misty.
still alive.
Welcome to the
which,
stream.
So maybe the White Lady is just senile.
Senile.
My
no.
problem with that theory is
She
that
is
the White
probably
Lady
very
states
old.
that the vessels stand out to her clearly in a misted world, due to them being her spawn. She also questions whether or not the Knight sought her aid, which would imply that the Knight must have
Thanks,
some
Misty.
kind of will. So for whatever reason, the White Lady thinks the
I'm
Knight
in
is
my
still
casual
capable of
getup
containing
now.
the
I just woke
Radiance,
up and
even if it's still able to make decisions.
went live.
After all, the Hollow Knight was considered pure, but they still taught it how to wield a fucking sword. I mean, if the Knight were truly and completely hollow in a literal sense, it probably shouldn't even be able to walk, or draw
is
a map,
true.
or open a goddamn bank account. In short, this whole concept of being hollow is so abstract and hard to define, I don't really feel comfortable giving a solid answer on whether or not the Knight is or isn't truly hollow. And I think the game leaves room open for other interpretations.
Interesting.
Of
Definitely
course,
how
the
that
White
was for
Lady's
your
gift
one follow
is
makes
useless
much
without
difference,
the
but
other
hope,
half of the
keeps me
King's
motivated
Soul.
and growing. Thank
In
you,
order
gamer.
to
I
reach
really
it, however,
appreciate it.
the Knight must travel to the
I'm
White
always
Palace,
motivated.
locked inside the body of a King's Bold. In order to bypass the seal, The knight must use a fully awakened
hey,
dream
we're all
nail.
beginners.
It can do this by bringing
to be fair, I only just
1800
started like a
essence
few
to the
months
seer,
ago, so
allowing her to sharpen the
I
weapon's
still consider
blade.
myself pretty
If the
new
knight
to
does
the
this, the
streaming
seer
scene
remarks
here.
that the knight truly is the
But
wielder that her tribe has
hope
been
you
dreaming
continue
of.
as well,
There's no
gamer,
explicit
I believe
reason
in
why the
you.
Moth tribe was dreaming about this supposed wielder so much,
It's fun.
but it
It's
seems
fun
like
to
they
just,
believe the wielder would wash away the
play
crimes the
video
Moth
games
tribe
and be
committed
able to
by
talk to
turning their
people.
backs on the Radiants.
Or
The seer seems to know
learn
that the knight
new
might kill
stuff
the Radiants,
about
and
games.
she seems accepting of it, ready for her and her tribe to disappear and be forgotten forever. With the awoken dream nail in hand, the knight can travel to the Pale King's refuge and locate the other half of the King's Soul
the other
charm.
half of the charm.
When equipped, the King's Soul provides a never-ending supply of soul, making it almost useful if it weren't for the insanely high cost of the charm, and the painfully slow rate at which it increases, and the fact that the charm will get replaced in about 5 minutes after you get it. The King's Soul charm itself symbolizes the union between two higher beings.
Oh,
To
interesting.
me, this
That's why
implies
you
that the
get
King's Soul
the.
is a representation of a
each of
vessel,
them.
which also was created by the union of
I
two
didn't
higher
clock.
beings.
Oh, I didn't
With the
clock
King's Soul
any
in
of
their
this.
inventory, the knight
during
now
my
gains
playthrough.
access to an
So
area in
this
the
is really
abyss
cool.
called the Birthplace. In this massive pile of vessel shells, the knight can find a giant egg. Dream nailing the egg allows the knight to access its own memory when it was
Interesting,
cast down
the
into the
reflection.
abyss. From viewing that memory, the King's Soul charm is replaced with the Void Heart
Heart.
charm. The recollection of this event allows the knight to come to terms with the void inside itself. Once the knight has the Void Heart, the shades in the abyss no longer attack it, and that strange creature that gives the knight the Shade Cloak calls it the Lord of Shades. In other words, the knight
Gamer,
has now
sure,
bound the once fragmented void under its
I'll
own
answer.
will,
I'll try to give an
allowing it
answer.
to control the void in a powerful new way. With the union of the void, the Pale King, and the White Lady, the knight has gained a strength before unseen. It is with this charm that 2 additional endings become unlocked. Hornet will now be
Okay,
standing outside
I
of the
think
Black Egg,
these
offering
are
to help
the
the
2
knight should the
endings we've
opportunity
gotten.
arrive.
So
Midway through the
anything
fight with
after
the
this
Hollow
will be
Knight,
completely
Hornet
new
rushes
for
into
us.
battle, subduing the Hollow Knight and piercing its shell. It's
I
at this point
did
that the knight is given the perfect
accidentally
opportunity to enter into the
kill it
mind
the
of its
first time.
sibling, fighting the source of the infection
I
head
got the
on,
bad ending
and finally
first.
putting an end to the Radiance's tyranny. Or I can just stand there and let Hornet get knocked unconscious. If the
Yeah.
knight finishes off the Hollow Knight as usual, the sealed sibling ending occurs.
I did accidentally get this
Basically,
ending.
it's the same as the Hollow Knight ending, but now Hornet is in the room too.
I got too
and her
trigger
face
happy. I was
appears
like, oh
on
my
the door
gosh,
of
she's
the Black
helping. I can
Egg.
hit him now.
It's not clear what exactly this means for
Um.
Hallownest. This might imply that Hornet is now a dreamer, but she's inside the temple.
Not just
meaning
the
that
bad
no one can
ending, but the
actually get in
worst
there to kill
ending.
her should the knight ever start leaking infection. At the same time, Hornet mentions that the bindings of the Black
Oh, you
Egg
love
would
playing
drain
multiplayer
her, so
games and
she's
adding
probably
gamers in your
just
life. Would you
going
be
to
open to
die
playing multiplayer
anyway,
games
right?
games with me? Yeah,
Generally, people
absolutely.
consider this to be
If
one
you
of the
wanna
worst endings,
contact me to
but it's worth
maybe
pointing out that Team Cherry doesn't support
figure
any
some
one
stuff
ending
out,
as being the
I have a
true
Discord.
ending. Each ending is canonical
It should
in
be
its
in
own
the
right.
about section
And
on my
honestly,
channel, or there
this
should be a
ending
command
isn't
for
the
it as
worst.
well. But
At least
that's
the
the
knight and
best
Hornet will
place
get
to
to
get in
spend
touch
some
with me if
quality
you
time
want to
together.
collab.
If the knight does dream
that
of
goes
the
for
Hollow Knight,
anyone,
it will be
so-
taken to an arena where it can finally fight the Radiance head on. But the knight isn't alone, as the other shades from the Abyss will appear in order to help corner the Radiance. Eventually, the Radiance
jeez,
gets trapped in the tendrils of the void.
this was such a
The
cool
knight
moment
bitch
in the
slaps her a
game.
couple times, and then
Not
the
only
Radiance
was
is
the fight
consumed
awesome,
into the
but
darkness. The Black Egg
just
then
like
appears
the
to turn to
ending.
shadows, and the void seeps down into the
I feel like
ground.
it's such a good
Hornet
segment
awakens to
or
find the knight's
segue
broken
going
shell
into
lying on the floor. We get one final shot of the shades in the
going
abyss going to rest,
into-
and the game is over.
shoot.
This ending is
Silk
called
Song.
the Dream No More ending. The Radiance is gone, and Hallownest is finally
Oh, you
free
can join
from
if I'm
her
comfortable as your
infection.
complete stream. Yeah,
Now, I
we
think
probably
it's fair to
chat a
ask
little
few
bit in
questions
Discord
about how
before
the Dream No More ending
going
comes
live,
about.
but
When the Hollow Knight was
just
initially
contact me
chosen
there
to
and we
become
can
the pure
see
vessel,
how
the
how
abyss
we
was
can,
sealed up, and
how
the
that
rest of the
goes
vessels
there.
were left to rot away. But somehow,
I'm
vessels
always
ended
open
up
for
outside
collabs
of the
with other
abyss,
streamers. I
and then
think
one
that's
of
the
those
best
vessels
way
was
to
used to replace the Hollow
grow
Knight.
and to like make friends.
Exactly
and
how much of this
have
operation
a
was
good little
planned,
community going.
if at
So
all. The White Lady was
I
waiting
was
for a
open
vessel.
to meeting
Did
and
she have
talking
any
with
communication with
other
Hornet?
streamers.
Hornet was
So-
guarding the King's brand, the only way for a vessel to enter the abyss. How did she know it
At
was
the end of the day,
necessary to
at the
guard
end of the
King's
day, oh
brand
my
from
gosh,
weaker
English. At
vessels?
the end of the day,
Hell,
we're all
if
we're
the
all
vessels did
strangers
escape
on
the
the
abyss by
internet.
themselves,
So
wouldn't it be pointless to guard the King's brand, since the vessels
It's
could
all
just
good,
creep back
gamer.
into the abyss the same
gamer
way?
to believe. Sorry,
I'm not
I
going
don't
to
know if
provide
I'm
any good
pronouncing that.
answers
What,
to
what
these
do you want me to call
questions,
you?
because God forbid I answer anything in this entire video. But I do want to point out that no plans to actually produce the Dream No More ending
No
are
More
explicitly
ending.
stated in-game. so we can only speculate as to whether or not the White Lady or Hornet, or maybe even the Pale King, knew that they could defeat the Radiants by creating a Lord of Shades like the Knight. Regardless, the next two endings were definitely not planned.
Deb? Okay, Deb is
in fact,
perfect.
The last two endings that were added in the Godmaster
You're a PS5
update
user.
almost feel
good.
out of place.
I'm sure there's a lot of
the
games that have like
basically
cross-platform
hijack
play.
everything to
I
the
am a
point where you
PC
don't even have to enter the
player.
Temple
I
of
don't
the Black
have a
Egg
PS5
to beat the
unfortunately,
game.
but we can
That's
figure
like
something
being
out
Mario
for sure.
Bros without ever seeing Bowser. But on the other hand, the Godmaster endings basically reinforce that Hollow Nest does not exist in a vacuum, which can help the world of Hollow Knight feel more real. Because what else is reality but just a bunch of random chaotic stuff happening all the time? If the Knight finds the Godseeker in the Junk Pit, it will be able to enter her mind and refight all the bosses in the game.
Jeez, every
This
boss.
is part of the Godseeker's ritual. They basically attune to the resonance of gods through ritual combat. This allows them to ascend their minds higher,
Jeez, this
and
is the part we
eventually,
didn't quite
through the
finish.
use of
We got
godly
to
focus,
P4.
achieve communication with the gods sleeping in Hollow Nest's heart, the
Oh
Radiance.
jeez.
Now I know what you're thinking. That's a pretty convoluted little religious practice they have going on here. What's next? Are they going to start measuring the Knight's Theon
My personal
levels?
guess is that there's
It's
just a
pretty
lot of leak
complicated,
in the
but
world.
the
The
point
infection
is,
leaking
these
out, the
Godseekers
abyss
have some
leaking out.
serious
That is
capabilities
true.
to fuck things
Nothing
up
is
in Hollow
perfectly
Nest,
immutable or
as we're about to
self-contained.
see.
Everything influences
As the Knight makes it
everything
further and
else.
further
That
through
is
the
true.
four pantheons,
That's also like
the Godseekers
the
get closer and
vessels
closer
like
to making
leaking
contact
out of
with
the
the
abyss
Radiance,
as well,
locked
like
away
getting
inside
out.
the Hollow Knight. At the end of the fourth
even though
pantheon,
everything's
the
sealed
Radiance
off.
makes herself aware in this strange reunion cutscene between the vessels.
Like the
But she isn't
influence
the only
of
one to
the
make an appearance.
Radiance
The Void
leaking
itself
into
appears to go on the attack,
the world
rising up
that
to
the
meet the
Pale King is
Radiance's
trying to
call.
make, you know?
It's at this point that the final challenge, the Pantheon of Hollow Nest, becomes available. The Godseeker finally acknowledges the Knight as being
There are
more
many
than
games
just a
that
simple
you pick on
cringer,
PC, you don't
and they
get on
begin
PS5.
to
No,
watch the
but
Knight
you
more
are
intently.
open to all
After defeating like a
cross-platform
bazillion
multiplayer
bosses
games.
in the final
Yay!
Pantheon,
I'd be
the
down,
Knight
Deb.
finally
Just
comes
let me
face
know.
to face with
Again,
the
contact
absolute
me on
Radiance,
Discord and we can
a stronger,
try and
more
figure something
enhanced
out
version
there.
of the game's final boss. Finally, the stage
I love
set.
to make new
After roughly
streamer
40
friends play
minutes of
with, so
intense
I'm
agony
excited for
and
that, Deb.
tedious boss battles, the Knight has finally reached the ultimate enemy, responsible for the destruction of Hollow Nest. Truly, this will be a battle for the ages. But first, let's check in on our old pal Menderbug. As it turns out, he's still alive when the Knight arrives in Hollow Nest, and he's still fulfilling his duty after all this time. Let's take one last look at his diary.
Yep, definitely.
My
Shoot
lovely
me a
diary.
DM on
Someone's gone
Discord.
and broke
That is the
my
best way to
favourite sign.
contact me.
Right there, at the top of the crossroads. Keeps happening to...
Absolute
But you
Radiance,
know,
my reward
I
for
just
clearing
can't get
Recipe
mad about
5.
it. I should be thanking them.
I'm
really.
terrified of
More
that.
chances to fix that beautiful, complex sign. And I've stocked up on spare parts, so I've no fear it'll ever stay
Yay!
broken.
I like how they made a little animation for the
Unfortunately,
guy.
the only way to ever read the Menderbug's diary is to kill him in cold blood. I'm not sure why Team Cherry thought this was necessary, but the general consensus on Reddit is that they are
no.
bloodthirsty warmongers, so it checks out. But at least Menderbug's last moments will be spent fixing one of his favorite signs in the Forgotten Crossroads.
Oh no!
It's comforting to think that his final seconds of consciousness were spent in total bliss, before we sent him hurtling into the infinite chasm that is Oblivion.
Oh my gosh!
Well, anyways, the alternate fight between the Knight and the Radiance plays out differently than in the vanilla ending.
Oh,
This time
really?
around, the Knight is not
So
accompanied by
this is
any
new for us.
shades.
We're gonna
Instead,
spoil
after defeating the
ourselves.
Radiance, the Knight seems
Spoil
to transform
ourselves
into
here.
this monstrosity. Now this creature goes by many names. The God of Gods, the Lord Shade, the Devourer, the Void Entity.
Oh jeez.
But I don't really like any of those.
Bill?
So I will just call him Bill. Bill proceeds to completely annihilate the Radiance in spectacular fashion. We are then treated to the Embrace the Void ending.
Thank
Bill
you for being
comes
so
back down
kind
from
and
the
nice.
sky,
Of course,
dropping into
Deb.
the rest of Godhome. The Godseeker starts to get
I like
pulled
this to
into
be
Bill
a-
by void
Oh
tendrils.
jeez, sorry. I'm also
We then cut to the
focusing
Godseeker
on
in the
this.
junk pit.
I like this to be
Void
like
starts
a
leaking out
nice
of her
safe
eyes,
place
and it
for
appears as though Bill is
me to
making
play
an escape
games
back
and
into
just
the
chill,
real
and
world,
for you
which
guys
is
to also
probably
just
a bad thing.
be able to chat with
Finally,
me and
we
stuff.
see Hornet
I like
standing
it
outside
to
of the
be
Black Egg as the
a
infection begins to
very-
disappear from nearby vines.
like a
Hornet
good
hears
like
footsteps coming from
comfy-
inside the
comfy
Black
stream,
Egg
you know?
as the Hollow Knight reveals itself to her, and the two prepare for combat. So
Right,
from
this
this
is new, so
cutscene,
I'm
we can
gonna
see that the
lock in
Radiance's
here a
death in
little.
Godhome actually did kill her for real, meaning that the infection over
jeez.
Hollow Nest is now gone.
Okay.
This means the seals inside of the Black Egg probably wore off, allowing the Hollow Knight to escape its prison. In other words, the
Oh,
Embrace
you're
the
not
Void ending is
disturbing.
a
You're
goddamn
not disturbing at all,
cliffhanger.
Deb.
And we
I
have no
love.
idea
This is
how
why I
Team Cherry
stream.
plans
This is
to
why
follow this
This
up.
is why it's a little
The
watch
Hollow Knight is
party
running
here,
loose in
and so I can
Hallownest,
so I
and
can
the
talk
night has
with y'all
transformed into a
while
raging
enjoying the
void
story
monster
at the
that
same
might try to
time.
destroy the entire kingdom. or
Yeah,
at least
don't
what's
feel
left of
guilty
it.
at all. I love
What's
chatting
even more
with you
strange about
guys.
this ending is that the announced sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong, doesn't seem to be related to this ending at all. But that's a whole different shit show. Obviously, the biggest mystery surrounding this ending is the appearance of Bill.
Yeah.
Did this creature exist in the void already? Or was it somehow willed into existence by the power of the Godseekers?
Oh yeah.
Did the night turn into this thing, or did it just become a part of it? Examining a statue of this
Interesting.
creature and other forms of the night grant the player a Hunter's Journal entry for an ancient artifact called the Void Idol, which might imply this creature might have been worshipped by the ancient civilization. But again, that's pure speculation. We don't know what this worship of Void exactly looked like. Maybe the Void they worshipped took the form of something more sinister. There is one thing we know about this monster though. It's weak to flowers.
Interesting.
Yes,
Flowers.
these things. As it turns out, those delicate flowers that Zamir has stockpiled up her ass are actually useful for something. They contain a strange power
Really?
that even deters the White Lady from touching one. The Godseeker, however, is dumb enough to accept a flower from the night. If the player does this, instead of Void being released out into the world, this flower pulls a no you, and the Godseeker and Void disappear into thin air.
Interesting.
The flower itself is
I
described as
had
giving
no
off a
clue
pale
any of
light,
this
which appears to connect it to the pale beings.
Could happen.
Like I said before, pale beings appear to be some form of top-tier gods. As of right now,
The upper
we are only aware of
echelon.
two, the Pale King and the White Lady. But the fact that Zamir brought these pale flowers from a faraway land implies that there are definitely more of them out there. Another small hint of the existence
Faraway
of pale
lands?
beings are the pale ore items that can be found all over Hallownest. Did these come from the Pale King?
You
or
can wander
possibly
around
some
and give
other
the
pale
flower
being?
to a few
And
different
what
entities.
exactly
Really?
Are they poop?
That's so cool,
In
actually.
general,
I didn't
the
know.
Godmaster endings appear to be doing a lot of setup for future Hollow Knight content.
You never did
Like I said
give it to the
before,
Godseeker,
Hollow Knight
though?
Silksong
Yeah.
doesn't seem to connect to these events on the surface. So we are in a bit of a bind when trying to discuss what these endings actually mean for the greater narrative Team Cherry is building.
So like, no one knows.
There's
which one's
definitely a lot
canon.
more to consider about what the Pale Beings are and what properties they possess. And we also have plenty of questions surrounding the Void and how bugs have interacted with it in the past. It almost feels like we're looking through a
request
keyhole,
kindly to
trying
give
to
Discord
grasp
and
onto
chat.
the
Oh
totality
yeah.
of Team
It's
Cherry's
just
creation.
I'll just type the
How
command in real
powerful
quick.
are creatures like Bill and the worms? Where did things like the Void even come from to begin with?
Oh, there we go.
How much bigger is the world beyond Hallownest? Is Bardoon
That
into
link
butt
should
stuff?
work.
But of course, that's the appeal
If
of a
it doesn't,
game like
then there's
Hollow
something
Knight.
wrong.
Having all of the answers to every question would just ruin the mystery of the world. Plus, if we didn't have questions like this to waste our time on, then what else would we be doing with our lives?
Playing Silk
Go
Song.
outside? Ugh. And so this video comes to an end. Now I know the
I
average
liked it.
attention
That was
span
a
of a
really
YouTube
good
viewer is
video.
9 minutes. So let me leave you with a few takeaways.
Okay.
1. Hollow Knight is a game about bugs.
Nice.
I know this may come as a shock, but it's true.
That took
Watch
me
the
a minute
video
to
again,
realize
and
when
this
I was
time,
playing.
Pay attention. You'll notice right away, I promise. 2. Murdering your own babies might not be such a good idea after all. I mean, this is obviously just my interpretation of the game's lore. Other people might have different views on the subject of murdering babies, and every opinion is valid, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything. 3. Menderbug is fucking dead.
Oh god.
4. Nothing is certain. This video probably has a few flaws in it. Trying to construct a cohesive narrative with the information found in Hollow Knight isn't exactly straightforward.
I
I'm sure
think it
my
did a
views
pretty
will
good
change in
job.
the future,
This
and
was
I
a really
encourage you
good
to
video.
explore the lore yourself. 5. And this last point is fairly obvious, but I should mention it anyway. Cory in the House is the best anime.
Best anime? That was a really good video. Yay! Special thanks to everyone who worked on this, and Mossbag, obviously. If you guys want to support Mossbag or just want to get a link to the actual video here, I added a source command there. It was a really good video. I quite enjoyed that. Oh my gosh, I feel like I learned so much. every single little thing in the art, in like the interactions, and like even like just like the general mapping of everything has like lore implications. That was so cool. Jeez, oh my gosh. Fran, did you say that you wanted, there was a short video you wanted to recommend right after? I'm down to continue on my deep dive here. If you still got that for me, but in the meantime, I'll yap about stuff. What should I yap about? Oh, you sent it in my DMs. Let me check that real quick then. Yeah, no, that was so cool. And I was even like picking up like implications for Silksong. There. All right, let me put this in here. Yay! Okay. Oh my gosh, it's an animation. I love animations. This is fun. Let me pop us back on over here. I love animations, especially for like fandom stuff. I love seeing like what people make for like different like pieces of media. I think it's so cool. But you have to rewatch the video after you're done with Hollow Knight. All good, Haley. That was really good. I loved it. A lot of really good information, interesting tidbits in there. So I definitely do recommend watching the video after you're done with that, Haley. I hope you didn't get spoiled too much. But yeah, definitely recommend that. I'm gonna go ahead and watch this little animation. This is from the channel Sadist, SAD-IST. And we're gonna get going here. Short little animation. This is gonna be so cool. I can tell. Even now the little water ripples. That's so cool. Oh, it's so pretty. Turn the volume down on the 5 ending part. Probably smart, Haley. You're gonna work now. Fun to catch a little bonus stream here, though. Yay! I'll see you, Ellis. Good luck with your work. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it.
I guess I have to face that.
I hope this song isn't gonna get me copyrighted. Surely we'll be fine. I'll just keep yapping. Ooh, okay. So it's the vessels here. We're proving our hollowness.
I'd rather be free.
So is this in the White Palace here? I'm trying to yap a little bit because I'm worried about the song if it's gonna get me copyrighted.
I'd rather be
low-key depressing, yeah. It's got the little sad vibe here. Oh, we're all gonna get locked away? Are they gonna stick us in the abyss here? No! Oh, jeez. That's crazy. Man, Pelkin is a shitbag for that. If anything, it'll just mute this portion of the VOD. That's good. Okay, that's good, Fran. Oh. Cute. Not cute, kind of sad, but I liked it. Good animation, holy. That must have taken like months, weeks or months, depending on how much they put into that. That was very good. Again, it's the channel SAD-IST, Sadist. I'll give him a little subscribe. Cool. I like that, Fran. You have another one? You know what? Why not? I'll be down. Let's keep watching some cool Hollow Knight lore stuff or some cool animations. I do love like seeing what people make for games and stuff. I'll check my old Discord here. Okay. This looks cool. Oh, okay. I'm gonna pause and read chat real quick. Get rid of that. Join Discord. Thank you, Deb. I'll definitely get in touch with ya there. All right, let us see. This is from the channel Stella Marius. Completed. Okay. Let's see what this has got. Ooh, this is funky music. Yay! Excited to be part of the community. Thank you, Deb. I'm also excited for you to be part of it. We're small, but we're fun. I think we're fun and chill. Oh my god! This is such good animation. Ooh. This is so funky. This is made by multiple animators. That's so cool. I can kind of tell. I can see the style shift in it. It's very interesting. Ooh. This is so cool. What games do we play? So we play. Right now we're actually in the middle of Silksong. Kinda. Everyone's playing Silksong now. We played Hollow Knight for a good few months before Silksong came out. So we're honestly, I guess you could call us a Metroidvania channel, I guess, because we played Nine Souls and then we played Hollow Knight, and then we're doing Silksong. And nothing before Nine Souls. That's what we started with. But yeah, no, I've been getting really into just like Hollow Knight, the community, the lore. Really cool stuff. I'm allergic to pausing. Trust me, I'm seeing this. It's really cool. My eyes are glued onto this. It is very cool. We're drying up our knights. Our little guards of the palace. It's worrying, I think. Dreamers. We're making a little deal here. So cool. I actually really love seeing all the different types of style in this video, like art style. Going down the map levels. I wonder how this was done. Like if they had like different, how they like portioned out what different people had to make here. That's cool. I like that a lot. That was a good send. That was a good recommendation, Fran. Ooh, by the way, professionally you're a piano teacher. You started gaming streaming as your second love. That's so cool, Deb. I played. Oh, actually, let's let this play. Let's see all the different artists that were behind this. No, I actually played. I've played piano since I was little, but it's been so long since I've like gone and picked it back up. But that's so cool. You looked up the book and it's a Wanderer's Journal of some lore info. Okay. I might also look into that. I love a good lore book. But no, my main goal career-wise, Deb, is I want to do like actual game development. I'm in college for game design. So I want to make games and then also be able to stream on the side for fun. I think they would both like kind of. I feel like it's good that they can like cycle into each other. My game dev stuff on the side and then my streaming stuff. So, you started from the age of 5. That's awesome, Deb. That's so cool. I'm gonna keep this tabbed. I'm gonna look up some of these artists later on, but yeah, that was Stella Marius in collab with a lot of cool artists in here. But I'm lucky I have that option, and I'm not from India. Yeah, I am lucky. I do consider myself very privileged, in many ways. But I do think it's cool you're from India, though. I think it's really awesome how like worldwide we are, in the community. I know there's some people who live in Japan. There's some people in Canada. I think there's someone from Israel, maybe. I can't quite remember exactly everything in chat, but there's people from all over the place in the logger community, and I think that's so cool. I can't wait to see the first game. I'm working on it. It's it's a thing. It's gonna be a few years before that comes out. I think I'm putting in a lot of. I'll just say the scale grew. And the one thing that kills game devs is over bloating with the scale, and I'm just kind of letting it happen because I know that I will finish it. I just need to not try to add too much. But yay, you started from 5, still going on at 31. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I think I also started around like I want to say I started around like 6 or 7, but I have not been sticking with it. I played piano up until like middle school, high school, and then I kind of fell away from it. But where are you from? So I am on the east coast of the U.S. So yeah. That's why all of my stream times, it's gonna be Eastern time. Whatever I'm gonna be so for real. I don't follow what time change, I don't know, we are in. It's like daylight time, standard time. I just say we're in Eastern time. Whatever it is, we're in Eastern time. But yay, I appreciate you guys if you if you stick around until I get that game released. But whatever you can't add to the game, you can make a second game. That's absolutely true, Haley. That is very true. You completed your piano grade 8 from ABRSM. Nice! That's awesome. I used to do like the... have you ever had to do the theory time workbooks? I would do the theory time workbooks, and we'd also... Shoot, I don't know if it's what it's called. I learned from like... It was a book. There's like different ones. It's a piano in the middle and a different color at the top. And I just kept going through those piano books growing up. But the AB guidebook, maybe? Oh, you'll be doing diploma later. Oh my gosh! Congrats and good luck with that. That sounds like so much fun. I almost went into college doing. I almost decided to do a like a music arts. I almost went into music. I decided game dev was my true calling. I started with computer science because I liked programming in high school, but I soon realized that I wanted something more. I wanted something more creative. I wanted something where I could also have a bit of that music influence because I love music. I wanted to make music which I can do for game dev, which is really cool. I love art. I liked drawing growing up as well. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can combine computer science. I can combine music. I can combine art. It's game development. It's perfect. Another thing I love was writing. I used to write little tiny stories when I would, in my free time. I love writing and reading. So just like stories in general and media in general, it just all was perfect for game design. So a year into my degree here, I swapped to game design. So that's the logger story, I guess. But music theory for piano, I did like the theory time books. It's like there's like a little clock on the cover. I did those books, and for the actual like learning how to play, I did the piano. It was like I forget what they're called. It was a little book with a piano with a little different color at the top, and it changes for every bit of, oh my gosh, music selection. I don't know. English is leaving me right now, but I do believe though, I think I'm gonna leave stream there. I had so much fun learning. So much fun learning about Hollow Knight here. Do come to India. Oh my gosh, I would love to come to India. You would like to be the host, you could learn from you. Oh, that'd be cool. Oh my gosh, I do want to travel the world. That's another thing. Being able to do game development, since like I want to be able to make games solo, which I know is a very spooky thing to say. Like people say solo devs don't really make it, but I want to try it. I want to try to make games on my own, but because of that, I can travel. It can be remote, which is really cool if I'm able to make that work out. But this is stuff for future logger to worry about. Right now, I'm just gonna keep making my game. I'm gonna keep doing my studies. I'm gonna keep going to work. I'm gonna keep streaming, and see where life takes me from there. I don't know. But right, I'm so sorry we are ending. You just got back from your meeting. No. That's so sad. It was pretty fun though. I loved learning. Hollow Knight lore is so interesting. Every single little thing in the game has like purpose to it. I think that's so cool. As a dev, it's like honestly kind of inspiring. How every single thing has a purpose in that game. It's so cool. But you believe in learning no matter whoever we meet. There's always room for learning different things. That's so true, Deb. That's very true. Everyone has different life experiences, and everyone has different things they can share. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to visit India one day. Maybe in a far future. That would be very nice. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was such a fun little stream here in the morning. A little shorter than we usually do, but I think like the purpose was we were gonna sit down, we were gonna watch that video. We sat down, we watched that video. We had a few little bonuses there from Fran, which were very cool. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys spending your time here today. And I hope that you enjoyed the rest of your day as well. Next stream, I actually don't remember exactly when that is. It's sometime. When is the next stream? Next stream is... Next stream is going to be Friday. It's going to be another morning stream. It's going to be a 10 a.m. on Friday. That will be Silksong. So... that will be a Silksong stream. I think next week we're going to try and do Cuphead with Josh at some point, since we delayed that from earlier this week, unfortunately. That was me being a little silly, but, that will be the next stream. And I hope I'll see some of you guys there. If not, don't feel pressured to join. I hope I'll see you at a later time. Thank you guys so much for joining in again. I really appreciate it. Definitely hope to get through your boring work. Yay! Thank you guys for sticking in here. I'm probably not gonna raid because I'm gonna go straight out to get some food and start my day here. But appreciate seeing you guys here. I'm really bad at ending stream, so I'll just hit the button now. All right, goodbye everyone.